Hi, and welcome to my sci-fi, fantasy, and horror short fiction roundup for July 2023, and it's late. Usually I publish these at the end of the month, but this month I was traveling. This roundup is out in early August instead. Now, this month's roundup, as usual, includes some amazing stories I read and loved in the previous month. And for more story picks by me, you can check out my quarterly short fiction treasures column in the July 24 issue of Strange Horizons. And there's a link in the description. The art for this roundup includes the detail of Sergio Reboledo's cover for Clarkesworld number 202, and the artwork is titled Autumn Pond, and a link where you can find out more about the artist is also included in the description. So, my story picks this month are, first up is Blue by Margaret Jordan in Fantasy Magazine. This is a gorgeous and harrowing story about August, who survives a blazing inferno by sinking and almost surely drowning, and who is fundamentally changed in the process. Disaster and the magic that entered her as she sank into the ocean haunts her and affects everything she is and does from that point on. The fear goes deep, but August also meets a new group of people who have also been changed by the world. And from there, Jordan builds a story of fragile, strengthening hope and a new way of life. My next three story picks are all from Flash Fiction Online. And we start up with Dave the Terrible by Brent Baldwin, Flash Fiction Online. This story by Baldwin is a gorgeously crafted tale that weaves together grief and fantasy. Dave has inherited the unholy scepter after his mother dies, and the things the scepter shows and says to him do not necessarily make it easier for Dave to find his way back into the world. It's a lovely piece in every way. Next up is When the Forest Comes to You by E.M. Linden, also Flash Fiction Online. This is a wrenching and quietly devastating story about childhood and parenthood, about longing for something you can't have and then finding it under circumstances that are not what you first imagined. There's a tenderness to Linden's prose here, even when it turns darker. That broke my heart. My third story pick from Flash Fiction Online is Patrice by Meredith Gordon. Strangeness permeates the everyday in this story about Patrice, about children, about pregnancy and birth, and about parenthood. There's a quiet weight to Meredith Gordon's prose that makes the story sink deep inside and stay with you. My next story pick is The Indigo Mantis by E. Catherine Tobler in Podcastle, and it's narrated by Christiana Ellis. This is a noirish murder mystery with a mantis superhero at its heart. Chew on that. And this story is so much fun and also truly intriguing as we follow Indy, the mantis, adventures among ants, bugs, and the memories of her father and his death. I love the world that Tobler creates here with all its perfectly drawn characters, milieus, and situations. And having a mantis as a secretive crime fighter haunted by her own dark past and the memories of her mother is brilliant. My next story pick is What Remains, the Echoes of a Flute Song by Alexandra Sadel in Clarkesworld. Now, a story by Alexandra Sadel is always a gift, in my opinion, and this one is an exquisitely wrought science fiction tale set in a future where cities and technology remain, but where the inhabitants are long gone. A flute player walks through this world carefully picking their way through the ruins and the remains of the past, and then they find a person. Sadel's story is suffused with both light and terrible sadness, and it is achingly beautiful. My next story pick is Death is Better by Oluwatomiwa Ajegbi in Lightspeed. This is a terrific science fiction story about two siblings trying to flee those that have bought and imprison them. I love sibling stories with a passion. And the bond between the siblings here, the brother and the sister, it just gives the story such added urgency and depth. The writer really captures a world and the terror and the agony and the determination of the enslaved with sharp and devastating clarity. My next story pick is No One Ever Finds Her by Matthew Keeley in Coffin Bell. And this is a flash piece. I'm going to read a piece of it. The warmth of black fur against her spine and under her fingertips goes. Now wetness on the back of one upturned hand and the cold of hard tile under the other. Soothing candle glow dissipates, and she opens her eyelids to squint at white and shine. She has been spat out, starfished on the disabled cubicle floor. Now, just read the story. It is so strange. It is kind of winding, and I love the way it makes you feel magic and displacement. It's about being lost and finding yourself in new places and new bodies, and it's just gorgeous. My next story pick is A World Unto Myself by P.A. Cornell in Apex magazine. This is a quiet and beautifully crafted science fiction story that has a wistful, thoughtful vibe that I love. Now, in general, I love tales of old robots and of how they may find ways to change and to exist in a world that is so different than the one they were made for. And this story just hits all the right notes for me. My next story pick is Interstate Mohinis by M.L. Krishnan in Diabolical Plots. Now, the mystery of the afterlife, of existing as a monster, or at least something others perceive as monstrous, Krishnan captures it perfectly in the story. I love the voice of the story, the feeling of bewilderment, and of being lost and searching for your identity and purpose even after death. My next story picks are two stories from Three-Lobed Burning Eye. They're from two different issues of the magazine. The first story pick is Exquisite Corpses by A.M. Gouet. In the story, beauty and the expectations of others, how to behave, how to look, feature heavily. And there's a Frankenstein-esque kind of body horror here that is both darkly funny in a painful way and harrowing. My next story pick, also from Three-Lobed Burning Eye, is A Song for the Centipedes by Neil Auck. And it starts up with the line, "The crib filled up with centipedes." I love this dark and twisting story where horror, despair, and anger creep ever deeper into the world of one woman sitting by a crib. Her past is full of death and grief and pain. She's haunted by sounds and memories from the forest, and we glimpse that past in terrifying flashes of dread. There's an aching, hollow sadness here, and Auck's language gives even the darkest, most horrible moments a deep and beautiful luster. My next story pick is The Spirit of Bois by Karen Diaz in Faya magazine. Now, this latest issue of Faya is carnival themed, and Diaz's story is a terrific romp through a carnival full of people and spirits. There's such great detail here, and the history and the revelry and the characters of the spirits gathering together with the human beings. And I especially love the way Diaz describes the connections, deep and ancient, new and fiery, between revelers and spirits. There's such joy here, and the story captures both the mood of fest. It's a grand story with real depth and real heart. My next story pick, and the last one for this month, is Petunia by Lerato Malangu, also in Faya magazine. And this is such a gorgeous, such a powerful story about Tamani, who isn't exactly like the other people in his town. His mother won't let him attend the carnival festivities because of past mishaps, and because he's struggling with how to handle the visions and the magic that swirl through his life. And then Tamani sees something and meets someone who changes what he thought he knew about himself, and it gives him a task to complete ahead of the year's carnival. It's a quest that will transform Tamani and also transform his relationship with his mother and his community. It's such a brilliant story, and I love the way it describes both Tamani's outer world and his inner world.